Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewers. This is Amit Ganguly back again with a new topic. Today, we shall talk about presentation skill and we will see how we can make our presentation much better and impactful. Before we go, let me tell you, presentation skill is a vast topic and ideally it should be covered in a classroom session for 1 to 1.5 days. I am trying to make a summary with the key takeaways in this video so that you can get an idea. Now, if we move on, we all might have given presentation in our life on different occasions and to different set of audiences. Have you ever felt that the presentation would have been little better? Or did anyone ever told you some improvement areas to make your presentation more impactful? If you have felt some improvement is required, I am sure you must have worked on that and make your presentation better. If someone have already given some tips, I am again sure you must have worked on those areas as well. So, the first thing we need to know is who is giving the presentation and to whom and through which media. We will discuss all these things in bit details in next few minutes. The style of presentation and the material needs to differ from each of these cases. So before we get into the specifics of these, let's first come some of the generic topics which are more or less common across all the platforms, audience and the role of the presenter. Before anything else, let me tell you, to give a presentation other than one-on-one cases, we need to be fearless. That is, we should not have any nervousness. Now many of times we feel little nervous. We can do certain things to remove those stress and anxiety and fear from our mind. What are those things? One, you should know your content, right? Content, audience and venue. These three things are important. Knowing these three things. How will it help? Content help us to memorize the whole thing and gain confidence. Audience, if we know the audience, who all the people, what is their age group and all these things, that also helps to talk about the examples, scenarios and all this. Similarly, venue, that decides our volume, pitch and all these things. The second point, we need to memorize first 2 minutes. How will it help? We don't need to look at the slide while speaking. That's very important. Third, you need to keep in mind what you ate and drink before the presentation. Sometimes overeating creates a problem. Next point, fourth point, meet and greet your audience. We need to understand how to greet the audience, how to welcome the audience for your presentation. Next, what we need to know is the purpose of the presentation. What is the purpose of the presentation? Why we are giving this presentation? So broadly, again, we can have two different types of presentation. One is informative, where you are going to provide some information you expect the audience needs to know or to increase their knowledge. For example, presentation to a client about your product, service, presenting a new functionality of your product, application, so and so forth. Right? Second case is persuasive, where you are trying to convince the audience to accept the belief or a position or to take some particular action. If we move on, we can divide any presentation again into two parts. One is the content, where we are going to talk about what is to be presented. Second is the delivery, where we will talk about how it is to be said. So to start with the content part, that is what to be presented. Remember, ideally, again, any presentation should have two parts. One is the vocal, the other one is visual. Now, visual is very important for any presentation. According to various different studies, visual impact or visual presentation, visual content, right, have close to 62% of impact compared to the vocal content, which is 38%. So it is very clear that rather than only speaking without showing anything to the audience, it doesn't create that impact. Rather, if you show something to the audience, that creates more impact. Talk little more about the visual part. Now, when we are talking about the visual part, also, in certain cases, you might found that instead of putting the textual content, it is better to use graphs, especially when you are talking about number. Let me take an example. Assume you are a salesperson or a sales manager, right? You are presenting your annual sales figure to your seniors or to the management. You have two options. One is make a textual slide, which you can see on your screen now, right? It's full of text. All the information is there, but in textual format. Numbers are with the statements. The second option is prepare a graph, that which we call as graphical representation. Now you can see that as well in the screen. So you can think, you can decide yourself which one creates more visual impact. Definitely where we are showing the graph, right? That is easy to understand, easy to register, the numbers and the progress and all these things gets very easily captured. Now, few general rules to organize the content. Ideally, we should have 3 sections in our content. 1, tell them what you are going to tell. This part actually should contain the introduction of the speaker or the presenter, then a very initial bullet points which we often call as table of content. What all things we are going to cover. Second section is the body, which we call tell them what you are telling. So that consists of the body of your presentation, the actual content. Now third part or the last part is tell them what you have already told, which is nothing but a summary. Now let's move on to the delivery part. Now delivery means how it is to be said, the first section of delivery. Now here we have 6 points which we need to remember. 1, pitch or volume. Here, if you are giving a presentation on one-on-one or 1 to 5 kind of thing, you are the presenter, 4 to 5 audiences are there who are listening and watching your presentation, right? In that case, you can speak in a normal volume. If the number of audience is say 15, 20, they are sitting in a larger conference room, in that case, it's better that you increase your volume a bit so that the last person sitting in the room, the farthest corner, he or she should be able to hear you properly. Third case, assume you are giving a presentation to a large audience, might be in an auditorium kind of setup, right? Most likely, 99.9% probability, you will be using a microphone, right? There will be an audio system. And when you are using a microphone, be it a handheld microphone or a lapel mic, you should speak in a normal volume, otherwise it becomes very loud and sometimes it creates disturbance also. Second point, pace. How fast or how slow you are speaking. Don't go too fast, don't go too slow. If you go too fast, people won't be able to understand what you are saying. They won't be able to realize. While if you go too slow, in that case, people will lose interest, it becomes a little boring and people will start thinking, okay, first sentence has come, when the second sentence is going to come, like this. Is it a good thing? No, right? Third important point, pause. Use pause appropriately. Wherever there is a punctuation mark, use that punctuation mark properly. Don't continuously speak. Other than the punctuation mark also, whenever there is a logical closure or logical end, maybe an end of the paragraph, end of the section, whatever it might be, give a pause. Stop for few seconds. That again helps your audience to understand, to digest what you are saying, right? Moving on. Fourth point, voice modulation. Again, if the presentation is for very short duration, in that case it's not that critical. But if it is little longer duration, in that case little bit of voice modulation helps a lot to gain attention of your audience. Otherwise, if you speak in a flat tone, then what happens? It becomes boring, right? Little bit of voice modulation is required. It helps. Next point, fifth point, eye contact. It helps to connect with your audience. Now, imagine a situation. You are a presenter. You are presenting something. You have the set of audience sitting in front of you, whatever the number might be. Now, while speaking, you are speaking like this or like this. Will audience like it? Will they be able to connect with you? No, right? So what we need to do is we need to have a proper eye contact, but remember one thing, don't stare at one person, never. In that case, what happens? This person will feel terribly uncomfortable. So what we always suggest is make a wavy eye contact, that is, which covers gradually to everyone, all of your audience. Then sixth point is body language. Keep a positive body language, show energy and enthusiasm. Very, very important. Your energy, your enthusiasm is being radiated to your audience, so they will also feel charged up. If the audience is more, in that case it is better to stand and speak, and assuming your content or the duration of the presentation is little longer, maybe more than 30-40 minutes kind of thing. If the duration is little longer, at least intermittently, please do walk a bit in the space provided for the speaker or for the presenter. How it helps is, it breaks the boredom of your audience. Any moving object which is moving in front of your eyes, what happens? Your eyeball follows that moving object. So it helps your audience to connect with you, stay connected with you, right? How should I look? Very critical, very important. Now remember, especially when you are giving a presentation to an unknown set of audience, they don't know you. In that case, the first impression gets created when you enter or when you become visible for them, right? So from that time, first 2, 3, 5 minutes are very critical to create the impression. Now attire part, I will leave it to you, because what happens is ideal or professional attire varies from geography to geography. Let's talk about the different audience level now, which we have touched at the very beginning and said that we will cover it throughout the presentation. Now, before we get into the different type of audience and what is your role for the presentation, one thing is common for every cases. Be punctual. Never come late. Okay, that's the key point. That creates the first impression. Role of the presenter. Now what is my role as presenter? Who am I, right? So first case, assume I am the top person in the organization, CEO, COO, or at least a unit head. These kind of roles I am playing. If I am playing these kind of roles, then normally I need to give two different types of presentation. One, employee town hall kind of presentation where you are addressing your employees. Now in those cases, your body language, your posture can be or should be little authoritative. We need to be polite and gentle. Don't behave roughly, right? Then nobody will like you. Second, always ready to accept questions. Now, by any chance, if your organization is going through a rough phase, in that case you need to be prepared with some for some possible nasty questions or difficult questions also. One tip here, I personally have seen this because of which I am suggesting this. Whatever nasty question it might be, You cannot afford to lose your cool and respond equally bad to the person. No, please don't do that. Second possibility of giving presentation is you are presenting something to your client, either about your organization or you are presenting about your product, solution, anything. Now in those cases, what we need to do is we need to be well prepared. We need to rehearse the content before we present, so that in front of the client we should not fumble. We should feel, or we should show that I am strong, I know the subject, and along with that we will behave humbly, right? So very important part, this one. Next, while meeting the client or while giving the presentation to the client, always give active listening. Very important. Don't jump into the conclusion. So we again have already spoken about active listening earlier in two different parts. These videos are available in YouTube, LinkedIn, both the places, so you can have a look. I am not drilling down there. If you are meeting the client personnel for the first time, for that I have a tip for you. Again, you might be knowing all these things, definitely you might be practicing all these things, but still thought of giving you the tip. Try to know the person before you meet. How it helps? You might be able to know his or her interest other than the work or professional area, so that during your meet and greet you can give some personalized touch. That helps. Now the second type, you are not the top boss of the organization. You are at various different career level, whatever it might be. In those cases, usually you give three types of presentation, three cases. One, you are giving a presentation to your senior about your achievement, about your idea, whatsoever it might be. In those cases, the tip is, again, rehearse your speech, be well prepared, be humble, and stick to the point. Don't drag, don't stretch it unnecessarily, right? Don't fumble. Show your preparedness, show your depth of knowledge. Please ask for questions, clarifications, and feedback at the end, so that the person, since he or she is senior to you, he or she will feel good that you are giving him or her required importance. Second type of presentation here. I am giving a presentation to my team members, might be at peer level, might be my juniors. In that case, we can be little less formal, but preparation is the key. We need to be prepared, of course. Third, client meeting. I don't want to repeat it. Whenever you are giving a client meeting or client presentation, that rule remains same. Whether you are the CEO of the organization or you are the junior most person in the organization who is authorized to give a presentation to the client, right? Now, next part, little differently. Irrespective of your position in the organization, your career level and all these things, you are giving a presentation while teaching in a class. That is, you are teaching a class, you are an instructor, you are a facilitator, right? In those cases, other than some points which we have already covered, there are a few other points. So first I will very quickly touch upon the topics which we have covered already. Preparation remains same. Professional attire, dress and all these things remain same. Positive body language remains same. Energy and all these things. Voice modulation remains same. Wavy eye contact remains same. Now here one additional tip is, please don't sit continuously. Last point, very important again. When someone asks a question, a participant asking a question to you, first, thank the participant for asking the question. Thank you for asking the question. Then answer. After giving the answer, again ask back. Have I been able to answer your question? So that's a courtesy, right? Now it may so happen that I don't know the answer right now, right? There's no problem in that. It's absolutely fine. So all we need to do is we need to tell, well, I don't know the answer right now, but don't worry, I will get back to you by so and so time, and please ensure that you get back to the person within the stipulated time. For that, if required, take his or her email ID or phone number or whatsoever it might be, so that you can contact him or her later to give the answer. Ensure that you don't miss the timeline. Alright, so far we are talking about the presentation where presenter and the audience are sitting in the same room, same geographic location or same place predominantly, right? I mean, ideally same room. They can see each other. Their cases are much more easier. Now in today's scenario, virtual presentation is very, very common. Now in those cases, we need to be little careful and we need to keep certain things into mind so that we can make the virtual presentations also successful. Virtual presentation broadly can be of three types. One is through video conferencing or telepresence kind of technology. In that case, though it is virtual, but it is more or less like the in-person conference only or in-person presentation only, because you can see each other almost as if you are sitting in the same room. Second type is you are addressing through webcast or webinar kind of technology. Now in that case, your audience can see you. You can't see your audience. So as a presenter, my attire, my professionalism, my preparation, everything has to be there. I can't miss on those areas. Third type is audio conferencing when you are sharing your screen. In this case, nobody can see nobody, right? It's a complete black hole kind of thing from at least the visualization perspective. So in this case, what happens is, we as a presenter, honestly, we don't have any clue whether your audience is listening to you. Only thing you can do in these cases, if you know the audience and if the number of audiences are not too high, 7, 8 kind of thing, and if you know them pretty well, if it is appropriate, you can ask some question pointed to individual. Only tip here is don't ask multiple questions to the same person, right? So question 1 to person A, question 2 to person B, question 3 to person C, so on and so forth. How it will help is, the first question when you are asking to person A, automatically including person A to person Z, whoever are there, everybody will be awake, because they know now that next question might come to any one of us. So better to be attentive. Now, if the number of audiences are pretty high, you can't do really that, or if it is not appropriate, or if you don't know the audience, in those cases, as a presenter, we will give our best, but we can't confirm or we can't say anything whether my audience is listening to me, paying attention to me or not. We really can't help it. Perhaps the only thing that I can do is ask some open-ended question, not pointing to a particular person. If your luck is good, if people are listening, at least few people are listening, then perhaps one person will answer. If nobody is listening or nobody is interested, in that case no one will answer. That also possibility is there, so be prepared for that as well. Alright, with this we come to the end of this presentation. Sorry for being quite long, because as I have told at the very beginning that it's a 1 to 1.5 days topic. I tried my best to cut it short to fit in the smaller time frame, but still give the maximum information, maximum tips for all of you. But still it became quite lengthy. Before we end, as I always say, as I always request, kindly subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon so that you can get the notification. New videos will keep on coming, so have a look at those videos wherever, whichever you found interesting, have a look. And of course, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Thank you.